Hello, welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today we're going to be doing our 34th D&D 3.5 Prestige class review, and we're going to be looking at the Slayer of Domiel Prestige class from the Book of Exalted Deeds sourcebook. A holy assassin may seem contradictory, but that is what the Slayer of Domiel sets out to be. They use supernatural methods along with subterfuge to slay evil foes. This prestige class is geared toward rogues and requires at least some sneak attack, but the description says that monks, fighters, and even paladins sometimes enter. This holy order of the Paragon Archon Domiel meets in secret from time to time to be given missions, and few of its members know more than a couple of their fellows. So this is a prestige class for a secretive organization focused on slaying evil by whatever means necessary. To become a Slayer of Domiel, you need to be lawful good, have 8 ranks and hide and move silently, and have 3d6 sneak attack. As is, this is easy for any rogue to achieve, as it's hard to find a rogue who wouldn't have their hide and move silently ranks maxed out. The problem comes with the feats the prestige class requires, which are Sanctify Martial Strike and Servant of the Heavens. Both are feats from the Book of Exalted Deeds, so if you are just discovering this book, it will be hard to get into this prestige class. Also, while the Servant of the Heavens feat doesn't have any prerequisites beyond swearing allegiance to a Tome Archon, presumably Domiel, the other feat does. Sanctify Martial Strike requires a 15 Charisma and Weapon Focus. It does give that weapon permanent good aligned strikes and extra damage to evil creatures, but it also means that to get into this prestige class by level 6, you will have no choice but to play a human, and to have a high Charisma in addition to good physical stats that you're going to need as a rogue. You will also have to forgo Weapon Finesse and other common rogue feats until later. So as such, I would rate this prestige class's requirements as highly restrictive, seeing as you are forced pretty much to build your entire character around them if you want to get into the prestige class before level 10 or so. You can get into it right after level 5, but you're going to need to stick very closely to the requirements. So as a Slayer of Domiel, you get mostly the same numbers as a rogue. D6 hit die, 3/4 base attack, and a good reflex save. Unfortunately, you only get 4 skill points per level, plus intelligence modifier of course. This is quite a downgrade from rogue, but at least you can keep up with your stealth and sense skills. There is also a spell progression, which we will get to later. At level 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 of this prestige class, you gain an extra die of sneak attack. This does put you slightly ahead of a normal rogue if you get into this prestige class as your 6th level, getting you 4d6 sneak attack at level 6 instead of level 7, and 8d6 by level 14. Still, this really isn't enough to justify the prestige class by itself. There are other ways to sneak ahead on sneak attack progression, so to speak. You also gain Death Touch once per day at 1st level. This ability works as the Death Domain power from the Cleric Domain list. You roll a touch attack to hit, and if you hit, you roll 1d6 per level. If the total exceeds your target's hit points, they die. This is an all or none effect. It doesn't deal damage, it might just kill them. Such a setup reduces the strength of this ability dramatically. Worse, in this case, the dice scale off your level in the prestige class, not your overall character level. This means that by 14th level, you'll be rolling 10d6, hoping it's more hit points than the monster has left and killing it outright. Otherwise, the ability is going to do nothing. This is also a death effect that only works on evil creatures, many of whom are immune to death effects, for example, the entirety of undead. This, of course, is to be expected for a good aligned assassin prestige class, but the way the ability is based off your class level sinks any chance this already subpar ability had of being any use. A Slayer of Domiel can also use Detect Evil at will from 1st level onwards. Detect Evil is a good utility spell, and being able to do it at will saves anybody needing to prepare it. It comes alongside 2 other features at level 1, 3 if you count the spellcasting you start at level 1, and that makes it a lot better than it otherwise would be. At level 2 you gain Divine Grace, which lets you apply your Charisma bonus to all saving throws. Paladins entering this prestige class will find this redundant, but for everyone else, of whom all were required to have a 15 plus Charisma, this boosts your saving throws by 2, which is nothing to scoff at. Divine Grace is a great ability, and you will have the Charisma to make use of it. At level 6, the Slayer of Domiel gains Improved Evasion. This makes up for a high-level rogue feature you would otherwise be missing. There isn't a lot to say about this ability, but it is at least a point in favor of the prestige class, given how many high-level rogue features you're going to miss out by taking levels in it. This is at least one of the more essential ones, so it's good that you still get it. Finally, you get a spellcasting progression of levels 1 to 4, giving you spells such as Bless Weapon, Change Self, Spider Climb, and so on, alongside spells such as Divine Favor and the new spell Vision of Heaven from the Book of Exalted Deeds. You cast them using Wisdom, spreading this prestige class's abilities even thinner. You will need a 14 Wisdom to cast all of these spells, so you'd better hope you get some pretty prodigious rolls if you want to play this prestige class effectively. Remember that this is alongside needing at least a good Dexterity, Constitution, and a 15 plus Charisma in order to get into this prestige class at all. You do get nice spells like Greater Invisibility, Dimension Door, Holy Sword, and the like at level 4, but that's the very end of the prestige class. There are also some interesting spells like Sword of Conscience from the Book of Exalted Deeds book. Overall, aside from spellcasting, I can't recommend this prestige class. The Death Touch ability will be next to useless even with the Death Watch spell active. The spell is going to tell you if creatures are very close to death, but really only within 3 or 4 hit points of dying. And that is really not going to be a time that you're going to want to be using your Death Touch ability. You're going to want to know your target's exact hit points so that you know if you have a reasonable chance of killing them with your Death Touch. That ability being useless, this prestige class's attempt to replace the Assassin's Death Attack falls a bit flat. The slightly faster sneak attack progression is nice, but it's diluted by the lack of weapon finesse hurting your accuracy. The other features are mostly things that you would have gotten anyway as a rogue. The best that can be said about this prestige class in some ways is that it will at least boost your reflex save quite a bit, between the inherent virtues of multiclassing for your saves, alongside getting Divine Grace. So as for the spells, there are Invisibility and Darkness spells for making assassinations easier, as well as spells like Holy Sword for really bringing the hurt to your foes. This does give you some top-tier Paladin spells, if you have the Wisdom for it, but the issue is that without very good stats, this prestige class is not going to fully function for most characters. It's going to require good rolls in at least 4 of the 6 ability scores to be effective. I would rate this prestige class 4 stars for concept and 2 stars for execution. The only thing saving it from 1 star is the sneak attack progression. The Death Touch needs to be based off of total character level to have any chance of being effective, and even then it is still a subpar feature. Even a prestige class with its own version of the Assassin's Death Attack that is good aligned or only works against evil creatures would have been a better idea. Either way, the Slayer of Domiel is a very restrictive prestige class to enter with a very narrow niche. It isn't the worst to take, but be sure you are taking it for flavor reasons and not power reasons. If you want a character like this without the feat prerequisites, a cleric with the Death and Trickery domains, multi-classed with rogue, would be very similar to this prestige class. You could also play a rogue paladin multi-class with the Devoted Inquisitor feat from Complete Adventurer. Both of those would probably give you better features than this prestige class offers, and if you can get a prestige class's effective roll from combining a couple of regular base classes, then it's probably not a prestige class worth considering. Still, if you really have your heart set on it, you could do worse. The Slayer of Domiel spell list is at least somewhat unique, but it doesn't have a lot that can truly set you above other characters, and as such, it's a mediocre prestige class. So that's about it for this D&D 3.5 prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.